Dark Matter is Apple TV Plus's limited series starring Joel Edgerton and Jennifer Connelly. It's a sci-fi thriller about a man doing all he can to return to his family despite being in the wrong universe. The first season consists of 9 episodes, but only 4 have been released. The most recent installment, The Corridor, is both the longest and the best installment of the show to date. That said, I have plenty to gripe about, so let me kick it off with a question. Do you know what dark matter is?
No, it's
So you
like,
never learned in high school or
isn't it like
college?
matter that we don't know where it comes from?
Sort of. It's like dark matter and dark energy are kind of confusing, very like astrophysics, macro based ideas versus what the show tries to explain it as, which is almost like a thought experiment. They talk about the Schrodinger's cat hypothesis too much. That's more about like quantum superposition, and they just get into the idea that like the mind can do incredible things if we tune certain things out.
Reminds me
It
of Lucy.
it's just bonkers. It's bad science, and I know this is based off a book. So my question is like, how much of the book is that bad science, or is it just TV trying to dumb it down for us dummies?
From what I understand, the first 3 episodes follow the book pretty closely. I know that they take some liberties, like Jason 2, who's supposed to be the evil
I
Jason.
call him Jason Prime.
Well, everyone else has called it Jason 2, but like the storage security that he has or facility, that's completely made up. I know they focus a lot more on him than the book even does. It's really focusing just on Jason. It also focuses on Daniela, I believe, a lot more. Like the book is really just Jason's POV and him trying to get back home, and in that way,
Good. Yeah, that would be more of an adventure story if it was just Jason who was stuck in this other world, kind of like in The Walking Dead. It's like one man's adventure versus splitting it up. I do not give a shit about the villain Jason Prime in this series. The biggest like problem with the whole thing is that he has a great life set up for him in the world that he came from.
yeah.
He invented this technology that is changing or that could change every universe everywhere. He is rich and successful, and the girl that he still loves but isn't with, like he has a hot girlfriend, but like he could be with the Daniela character in his world. He just chooses not to be. So instead, he hops over to our Jason's world and he steals his wife, Daniela, and his kid, who's like 16 years old, and for some reason then starts to convert that life over into his original one by like making friends with the same people and dropping his friendships that Jason already has. And it makes no sense why this guy has gone through all this trouble to do
Could
that.
it be because you're saying that he's just making it like his old life? Could this be something that he continually does to other multiverses?
Yeah,
Like
like
he
a
just
Batman who laughs, he just like keeps popping in there that he's like the ultimate villain. No, because Amanda, who is that girlfriend, the one Amanda I think is played by the same lady who was in God,
City of
City of
God,
God,
Alice
right?
Braga, yeah.
Yeah, so when Jason meets Amanda, when he's stuck in Jason Prime's universe, because that's where Jason Prime kicks him, Amanda tells him in this 4th episode that Jason Prime has to have rationalized it in his head that what he's doing for Jason is actually a positive, that he would like this, that even though he's lost his wife and his kid, he's now gotten great life in return for it. And so that's the way he got, but then again, it still doesn't make sense why Jason Prime even wants what he wants. Like A, he's no longer with Amanda, he doesn't get to hang out with her anymore. And B, it's just like if you wanted to hang out with Daniela, she was pulling an art exhibit for you in Jason Prime's world at the time. All they needed to do was have a couple conversations with each other and they would be hooking up and girlfriend and boyfriend. And yeah, it's so dumb.
It seems like it's, yeah, just a net positive for Jason 1 at this point. He wakes up and he has just kind of a better life, it seems like. But
It's
maybe
not better.
Charlie
Everybody
isn't
in
there,
that
right?
world
Yeah.
is super depressed. Even the co-partner, what's his name? Malcolm or
Ryan.
something?
Oh,
What?
I was gonna say Ryan. I thought that
No,
was
no,
gonna
no,
be
no, no.
Simpsons guy.
Ryan in the Jason Prime universe is sort of like relegated to he's he made the brain drug that they need to use in order to jump different universes. But other than that, he's like a no one. Who's the billionaire guy?
Leighton Vance,
Yes,
maybe?
Leighton. Okay,
Leighton.
yeah. So Leighton is the guy that he's just made friends with. Jason Prime has just made friends with in Jason, the original Jason's world, but he was partners with in his world. And that guy also goes running after the original Jason, when he realizes that he's not Jason Prime, trying to like track him down for some reason. And he gets himself stuck in that box where they jump universes. And because he doesn't know how to navigate it, by the end of the fourth episode, he's basically like on the way to killing himself because every door he's opening is going to eat him.
And Leighton Vance's character not only has a bigger role in the show, there's only one of him, which in the book, and I know here, I think in the show, there's two of him, but also
Yeah,
that whole
I just
part.
said that
Yeah,
the Jason Prime guy just found the version of Leighton in Jason's world.
but what you also just said is that he followed Jason and Amanda into the
That's
box.
the other one.
He didn't. That doesn't happen in the book. He doesn't
says
follow
as
them.
he's walking into the thing, he's like, I've got nothing else to live for. And we already know that he's a quadruple billionaire. Like he's the one who's funding this whole thing. He already has the technology in front of him. He could probably make it work if he wanted to. Like it just seems like a lot of these people in that world don't realize what they have already.
Yeah, if they're super rich, it seems like every single one of them just is like bored with life or
Yeah.
just kind of wants to
And
commit
Leighton
suicide.
in Jason's world is also super rich, but he's also like disabused of any fun notion because his grandpa just died. And so what Jason Prime does to try to get money from that Leighton is to bring him to the box and then show him a world where his grandpa is still alive.
So, okay, I was wondering because the first 3 episodes, I know that you have Jason 2 and Jason 1, but was it just supposed to show 2 worlds and then episode 4, The Corridor, was supposed to kind of make it more a multiverse situation,
Yeah.
or did we know there was more worlds going into
So
it?
I've sort of explained what like the premise of the show again is one of the Jasons gets kidnapped and then stuck in this other world. But in episode 4, Jason and Jason Prime's ex Amanda team up. She helps him escape from the compound facility that they're at to go bopping around in these different realities. They shoot up the drugs that they need to do, turn into like sort of a hulkish like brain fuzz thing that happens to them, and then they get stuck in one of the worlds that they're jumping in. Probably budgetary wise for Apple, they were like, okay, we did 20 solid minutes of jumping worlds. We can't afford to do
Huh.
this for the rest of the time. So they stick them in the Arctic
Yes,
for
it's
like,
the ice universe. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
they do some of the worst Apple CGI that I've seen in a long time when they're digging their way out of the Arctic to get to the box again by the end of the episode. But then once they get back into the box, they figured out how to control where they're going. And so we're led to believe that in the 5th episode, Jason will finally be able to get back home. Like a sliders situation where you jump universes and you never know. Well, this guy knows. And the trick is that it's just your imagination. You just had to trust Jim Henson on this one or something, because in the end, you just have to be thinking about the thing that you want when you open the door. That's also like Harry Potter.
It's like Jumper. And I
Yeah,
was
and-
wondering if
yeah.
it was anything like the 2006 sci-fi TV series The Lost Room, because you're
Well, that was like a place in the middle of nowhere that kind of like is frozen from reality. So I get the connection, but it's much more similar to Jack O'Lantern in Nightmare Before Christmas when he has those 4 doors that like allow him to go into the Christmas world and then the Halloween world, and like each one has a special like holiday thing. Because let's go through, this is my pros of the show, is definitely the multiverse aspect, and up until now I've been really bored with it. Like the first 3 episodes were not winners. The 4th episode, the first 20 minutes was a little bit of fun because you got to see these post-apocalyptic places. Like the first place looked like everything was Thanosing out. They opened the door and it's shedding, like the world, New York is like falling, turning into ash, or at least this big city is,
Yep.
and rusting apart and collapsing in their fingertips, and the buildings are coming down as they have to get back
And
into
that
the
world
box.
wasn't even in the book. That was just a world that they decided to create for the series.
I assume most of these are all creations for the series. Rainforest Land reminded me of what we would see in like The Rain, that show.
Mhm.
And then there was one with the solar apocalypse where the sun was literally zapping out all of the atmosphere because it was so close.
Oh, maybe it was that one. Yeah. So, what was the difference between the Thanos place and the sun coming so close? Like, did they have to make it to the
Remember
door?
Thanos when he snapped and everybody literally turned into ash?
Yes,
Like in
yeah.
front of you? That's what was happening slowly in that world to everything around you. Like it was all rusting in real time. to the point where the building started to come down super quickly
Okay.
in front of them. Well, the solar apocalypse one, they just had to open the door. They couldn't breathe. They closed the door again. And then there's tidal wave world, which reminded me of like Poseidon, but also like Interstellar,
Yeah.
where there's just that
That
giant.
sounds like a geostorm type of world where there's just this thing coming towards
Yeah,
you.
there was the parallel dimension one where they open the door and it's or it's like 3 hours later and they saw themselves get shot, or one of them gets shot.
That's kind of like Us almost.
For sure. There's a lot of versions where people have seen themselves as Harry Potter. Underground version where they opened it. Have you ever seen the poster for Tremors where you have the big
Yeah,
dinosaur?
the big
Yeah,
monster
they
underground.
open up the door and there's just big tree roots. So they knew that they were underground and they closed the door. There was the monster world, and the monsters look like those from Arrival, which I think Apple is streaming Arrival. So that was kind of cool.
Wait, so the monsters were just
You could
big,
see them in
giant black.
you could see them in the far back, and there's like it's really ghosty out there, but yeah, you could see them sort of walking up. And so
That's
he
cool.
he closed the door. And then yes, there's the Arctic one where for some reason Amanda goes rushing out and refuses to turn around, and it's probably the weakest plot point for her because it made no sense why she had a mental break in the middle of nothing, except for the fact that they just couldn't keep up that pace.
Again, the Arctic one, or the ice universe, that was supposed to be worse in the book for the characters. They had to.
She knocked herself out within 20 seconds of walking outside, and he had to carry her for like the next, I don't know, 30 minutes, which was kind of insane. Like it could have just been where she gets tired or they get lost, but instead they go with her just getting really cold.
So would the episode have been better had they just continually
Yeah,
went
absolutely.
to nowhere else?
Yeah,
the whole
for
thing?
sure. Yeah. But that's the end of my pros, really. The rest of the series is kind of just a drag. Noel Egerton, like I don't have a problem with him as an actor, but he does have in this show a classic Tucker Carlson look where he kind of opens his mouth and just like kind of looks stupid. Like he just doesn't know what he's about to say. And both the Prime version of him and Jason do it. Jason Prime, when he's taking over this guy's life, he's supposed to be a super big genius, and yet he's blowing everything up. He has no patience at all. He doesn't realize that by spoiling his son the way that he is, like buying him practically everything he possibly can, that he's not causing his own red flags. And so that's
How would he not
frustrating.
realize that? Because he quits his job again, not in the book.
That was in the fourth episode, but he's
It's
been buying his son things from episode 2 onward.
But how would he not recognize that that's a red flag? I
I-
mean, like, this guy's supposed to even be smarter than he is in the book. One thing is that he's expecting at some point, right, for Jason, the original Jason, to come back. That's not how it is in the book.
It's
in fact,
funny because he hasn't shown that he is expecting that in the series quite yet.
then what's the
However,
storage facility for?
the storage
everything?
facility,
Yeah.
that's where he keeps the big box that he came in, like that he came to that world
Huh.
in. Yeah, every world I assume has one, or it teleports there when it first arrives, if that makes sense. What else? Oh, his wife is getting suspicious, though. I do think that they also, in the second episode, when they killed the Daniela in Jason Prime's universe, like I thought that would weigh on Jason more, and really he was over it by the time the episode ended.
Why do they kill her in the second episode?
Because she was about to call the police when they came looking for Jason. The people, Leighton and the rest of his gang, and
Mhm.
so they hired apparently this lady who has PTSD, and they keep her on staff for who knows what reason. But then she got her fingers chopped off, I think, in the third episode because she tried to stop the door from closing, and she stuck them right in there. None of that really matters. It ends with them being like, yeah, why does dad seem off? Another thing I don't understand is why they have the dead twin storyline. Like, why do we need extra drama in this show? What is the purpose of it?
And I believe that was added to like a lot of this stuff. Episode 4 is supposed to kind of be the one where they blow it out of the water with the amount of stuff that they were adding for it. And it was Blake Crouch, the person who was the author for the book. This was his last episode that he really worked on, so
Mhm.
maybe he was just trying to set it up for the last 5 episodes, which are supposedly supposed to be the best from all that I've listened from the reviews. But I mean, maybe it
They
just
haven't
didn't
been
work
released
out
to
too
the
well.
wider public, though, and so that's what we're looking at right now. Is just in episode 4 specifically, the corridor. It's aptly named. The idea and the science behind it are don't think too much about it because it doesn't make any sense. The idea of imagination controlling where you're going. If you look at it more of as a cerebral exercise, the idea of being able to like look through a corridor of every single world that you possibly could have imagined, and it just never ends. That's a really interesting idea. And so having people getting stuck in those and trying to work their way out, and then also like trying different things when they have different imaginations of like what they want to see on the other side. I would definitely spend episodes watching that, except I don't think that's where it's going. I think they're going to get back into the corridor and immediately find Jason Prime's world and try to get Jason back into his own reality. And it just, even if that guy has rationalized it, like he's still already created so much havoc in Jason's original life, it's going to be hard for him to put that back together. If one of them ends up dying, I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's supposed to be a limited series, 9 episodes in all. And I think that this is the second thing that Joel Edgerton's been in. The first being Bluey. He was a policeman in that earlier this year. I actually have a game
What
here.
do you mean
Though.
by the second thing he's been in? He's been in a ton of stuff.
No, I'm talking about this year, TV show wise.
Okay, so he wasn't in any of the Star Wars stuff?
Not that I know of, at
Okay.
least. I have a game here though, 3 truths, 1 lie, because a lot of books have been called dark matter, and I was wanting to figure out if you could figure out which one is completely fake. I have the plots here, and again, you have to guess. So the first one is a 2012 4-issue comic series about 6 individuals who wake up on a spacecraft with no memory of their past. That's the first one. A 2010 speculative fiction novel, part horror, part ghost story, set in 1937 about an Arctic expedition. The third one is a 2007 novel about a physics professor who is told he has to kill a man to get his kidnapped son back. And then the last one is a 2015 kid book. It's about an archaeologist, Alex Carter, discovers a portal to a new world.
I mean, frankly, they all sound fake.
Well, 3 of these are real.
Okay. Well, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get them wrong, so let me see if I can get them closest in order. So the Alex Carter one, I'll say that was fake.
That one, yeah, that was fake. That was a fake one out of all of them. I was wondering if you were going to get the comic book series one that came out in 2012, because Sci-Fi turned that into a show called Dark Matter that ran for 3 seasons from
I
2015.
do remember not seeing the Sci-Fi show, but seeing the logo for it before. And then I know that the 30s one sounds kind of crazy, right?
Yeah.
And then you said that there was one where a guy gets kidnapped.
So
or a
yeah,
kid gets kidnapped.
it's a 2000
So much
novel.
like Fringe. Like they just keep on repeating that Fringe storyline where, and I know we've talked about it in this podcast before, where they do multiverses where people love to take other people's kids, their versions of their kid, and so he takes Peter, I think, and then that causes all the events of Fringe to happen. Yeah.
I know that they got a director to direct the first 4 episodes. He's done things like Invasion and the Twilight Zone news series, but actually they originally were supposed to get the director of Fast X and Fast X Part 2 coming in 2026 to direct the first 4 episodes, but I think he had
Not James Wan.
No, it was Louis Leterrier.
Okay.
That was his name. But
did James Wan and Vin Diesel get into a fight, right? Is that the reason why he left?
I think so. Yeah, it was something like that. Vin Diesel just keeps on getting in fights with people, right? He got in fights with The Rock, and then it was Tyrese, I think, right?
I wasn't trying to bring us into a conversation. I just was curious. Yeah.
So if you had to give the series a rating out of 10, what would you give it?
This episode, The Corridor, I would probably say as the strongest of the episodes, I would give it a 5 out of 10. If you are a multiverse junkie, you might enjoy seeing the cool things they were able to do in the first 30 minutes. But then for the rest of the drama, the rest of the show, I would probably give it like a 3.5 out of 10. I don't see it.
That low.
Well, yes, I'm struggling between a 3.5 out or a 4, but I say that like a 5 is very mediocre television. So 3.5 would seem about right because I don't want to like really push people towards it.
Well, it has a 7.4 on IMDb. It's got good reviews, 80% on Rotten Tomatoes. But the strange thing is that Rolling Stones is almost the polar opposite of their review. They said that they enjoyed the first 3 episodes, but that when it got into the multiverse aspect of it, it reminded them, or it kind of suffers from multiverse fatigue. But then there are other places that gave it good reviews. IGN gave the series a 7 7 out of 10. Chicago Sun-Times gave it a 3 out of 4, saying mind-bending and dense and at times
I
exhilarating.
mean, you've got Counterpart right there. Counterpart is the best series to watch if you want to see two universes going at it in a logical way where they actually do break down the science a bit and it makes some sense. Do that. Or Severance if you just want mind-bending television that Apple has produced. This feels like it's trying to copy that type of magic and it's just not successful because A, it's overly explaining science that doesn't really apply to what it's trying to describe. It keeps on talking about this box as if like it could be a thing and it just can't. So yeah.
The thing with, I know that I was wondering if Ordinary Joe was anything that you could come out with, because that was like 3 separate timelines, right? Or 3 separate different universes where a guy did
Yeah,
3
but it
different
wasn't
jobs.
about like a scientist guy who was making all these different Joes. Like it was just a show that was showing 3 different distinct universes. That would be insane though, had they ended that thing with all the Joes somehow like accidentally stepping on the wrong like stepping stone and like flipping into each other's universes and being able to meet. That
I
would
mean,
be cool.
there's also Closing Doors, which is that movie that came out in the early
Or that
2000s.
Sydney to the Max episode that you watched back in the day where she was able to go meet her dad back in like it wasn't a different universe, it was a bit different time. But
Yeah.
you know, time and jumping space is pretty cool. Like Doctor Who stuff is neat, but I just don't think that this show has it.
This year, it doesn't seem like we have that show yet, but I'm sure it's coming down the line because it seems like every year there is always a show that's able to accomplish it.
I mean, I'm still enjoying Fallout, and that's doing a bunch of time jumps. So thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.
Bye.